debts in perpetuity. This is something a lot of people do not understand. I often talk about how low interest rates can be very, very nasty. They are not the unlimited blessing that we are assuming these things are. They have a lot of dangers attached to them. One of the most dangerous aspects of a zero interest rate is that the lower an interest rate is, the higher the overall cost is in the long run if it's a government that is funding everything. And right now, everything is being funded by the major governments in the world, which makes this a very dangerous situation. So it's good to know how this came about. Namely, how was perpetuity debts invented? In the 1400s, the era we call the Renaissance, or the end of the Middle Ages, that was when unicorns used to run loose and knights wore shining armor. It got very expensive to go to war. In the Dark Ages, everybody went to war with very little equipment. They mainly mobbed some location and would then loot it, burn everything, and steal whatever they could and run off with it. But by the Middle Ages, armor got more and more sophisticated and fighting became much more expensive. The kings could not simply go off and tax the peasants, because then you couldn't go to war, since you would be fighting your own peasants who would be coming after you with pitchforks and torches. So to keep peace at home, the knights and the kings had to discover a better way to fund their looting expeditions. And the northern Italians came up with a system which they called debts in perpetuity. These were not eternal debts, of course. They were paid off over time. You got a lump sum up front, and then you paid them back a certain amount of it each year with an interest rate. And the thing that was discovered during all this, by the Italians of course, was that the lower the interest rate, the greater the amount of return was. So let's look at this really quick. This is the formula for a perpetual loan, and that is PV equals C over R. C is cash and R is the return. And PV is, of course, the perpetual value of the debt. And for example, if you were paying off $500 a year at 12%, you would have to pay off $4,166.67. But if the interest rate dropped to 10% on the $500 a year that you're paying back on a bulk loan, the return was $5,000. That is, this is the interest that you earn over the course of the loan. So they would pay back whatever the loan is plus the extra money. And the lower the interest rate, if it's 5% or 4 or 3 or almost 0, this number rises drastically until it's $10,000. This is a perverse thing to be while thinking logically, because we're not thinking mathematically. The invention of the number 0 revolutionized finances in Europe. And what happened was they found various ways of playing around with this information, and they would get very excited and thinking, we don't ever have to worry about how long a war lasts or how expensive it is. We can always just pay out more loans of these perpetual debts, and we'll pay as little as possible up front, and we'll just lengthen the time that we pay it off. That's where the word perpetuity comes in, because the bankers are not friends of the kings. They are actually enemies of the kings, but they are also enablers. So they say, well, we'll just keep giving money, and then eventually the king's this far in debt and has only two choices. Either he kills the bankers, or he taxes the peasants. And when you tax the peasants, they get irritable and they come by looking for you. King Edward III was the first British king to play this game, and he lost. He got money for invading France. His invasion failed. He got no loot from it. He had to retreat, go back home, and face the music. And so the great house of Bardi fell, because they were the northern Italians who bankrolled his little adventure. and his whole family was wiped out in the War of the Roses. And that is what happens. There are violent denouements for these things. America right now is giving the IMF $100 billion so they can loan it to other countries that are in financial distress. The only problem is we don't have this money. We have to go to the bankers and get the money from them and pay them in perpetuity at an extremely low interest rate, which means we're getting reamed out. This is why we're having a bond bubble now. That is, all the central banks and governments in the world are conspiring together to make this perpetual debt bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, while they make the interest rate lower and lower and lower and lower, so that we end up owing everything to the bankers. And that does not have a good end. We know our only way of escaping is to raise taxes, or to throw the whole thing away by having a revolution or a world war. None of these, I think, are very good solutions to this problem. And this is Elaine Supkis of Culture of Life News. Thank you.